What is up, guys? Welcome back to CageChat MMA, and we're here for, of course, UFC 256, and obviously Cage Rose 119. We're here for the recap, of course, and boy, what a fantastic weekend of fights we had. Obviously, we had the flyweight title on the line, and they gave us a fight of the year contender, maybe even the fight of the year itself. Obviously, Yoni Jacek and Zhang Weili, of course, from UFC 248. Probably take that first spot, or they were taking that first spot until last night at least, or Sunday night, or Saturday night, should I say. But Deiveson, Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno gave us an absolute war for 5 rounds. Many thought that maybe Figueiredo was probably favourite 1-3, but if it went the distance, that Moreno probably would have been the more favourable guy to see winning. But these two, they just didn't stop going at it for 25 minutes. Obviously, that third round, there was a heavy groin kick, and rightfully so. The point was taken away from Deiveson Figueiredo, and that turned out to be the deciding moment of the fight. But personally, I scored it 2, 3, and 4 rounds to Moreno, and I gave 1 and 5 to Figueiredo. But round 3 was so close that it could have gone either way, and obviously the point deduction would have made it either a 9-9 or a 10-8. Now the judges did go with a 9-9, and they gave us a majority draw. But I'm buzzing to see the rematch. And just to think of 24 months ago, 18 months ago, maybe we were thinking of losing the flyweight division. Obviously, Henry Cejudo was the champion at the time. There wasn't too many names in direct comparison where you're thinking, oh, he can challenge maybe Henry Cejudo. Obviously, TJ came down and challenged, and obviously everything that happened there, it left the flyweight division in a bit of a mess. But Deiveson Figueiredo has come through and clutched up in 2020, and I think he's a shoo-in now for fight of the year, having won that fight, or drawn that fight, and not lost his title last night. 4 title fights in a year, all of them very memorable as well. 3 finishes, and obviously his first 5-round fight that he saw last night. And obviously Brandon Moreno is heavily to credit for that as well, with the impact that he had last night. Both of these came in on 3 weeks' notice, and both of them looked fresh as anything for the majority of the fight until the 5th round, where Moreno seemingly picked up a shoulder injury. So, these two are absolute studs and warriors, and these two deserve all the bonuses in the world that they got last night. They deserve it all. And obviously, Figueiredo, announced that he was in hospital Friday night with a stomach issue. Came in Saturday night, got the job done, and retained the title. And that's what matters when you're a champion. It doesn't matter how you do it. And he done it superbly as well. And maybe on another night, without that groin kick, he probably would have won it on all 3 scorecards, and maybe a unanimous decision. Although, having said that, without that groin kick, maybe Brandon Moreno wouldn't have lost a bit of gas tank because he was picking up momentum going into those last 2 rounds that he suffered an eye poke, a groin kick, and obviously the shoulder popping all inside 25 minutes. So he had, albeit a fantastic night, he had a night where maybe on a different night, without those circumstances and those scenarios that he received and saw play out in the fight, maybe he would have been Featherweight Champion. And it does open up to it probably being the most sought after rematch and possibly fight for next year. Obviously, we've got McGregor Poirier too, which is bigger because of the names that they bring, but these two turned into superstars last night. At least Figueiredo did. Brandon Moreno became almost a cult hero, you could say, after the performance he put on last night. But yes, Figueiredo is still champion, still the flyweight champion, and most definitely fighter of the year for 2020 at least. You know, only really Kevin Holland who had a superb night, and we'll mention that soon. It is in comparison really with going 5-0 in 2020, but the fact that Figueiredo has had 4 title fights does push him a little bit closer, and how dominant he's been in those 4 fights as well. Now, looking at the stats, of course, for last night, these two put an absolute pace on 147 strikes landed there by Figueiredo, 137 significant strikes and 2 out of 4 takedowns, whereas Brandon Moreno landed a little less, 139 strikes, 132 of them significant, and obviously 4 out of 8 takedowns. These takedowns were superb last night, and the pace that these two kept up, you just don't see in any other division. That's why the 125-pound division is so exciting, because they can keep that pace at 25 minutes. You know, with all due respect, not seeing, Curtis Blades, Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic, as good as they are, as powerful as they are, they're not putting that pace on over 25 minutes. So we need to market now that the flyweight division in that sort of mantra that these guys may not hit the hardest, but they're going to bring it, and the theory they're going to bring for 50 minutes. Obviously, Figueiredo, as we mentioned, 3 finishes in his last 4 fights, flyweight champion, and he's going back to Brazil, probably maybe the most informed fighter at the moment, you could say. Obviously, at the moment, if I can think of, he's only the only Brazilian UFC champion that we've got at the moment, if I can think of the top of my head, and that's correct. Oh, pardon me, Nunes, of course, but male Brazilian champion at least. He's the only one there. So yes, I do think he's going to become a star in the next year or two. And Deiveson Figueiredo, he's superbly impressed. Now, someone equally as impressive and maybe a future champion in the UFC from Brazil is obviously Charles Oliveira. He put an absolute beat down on Tony Ferguson, didn't he? And it was one of those fights. I was saying on the preview, I didn't want it to become sad of Tony Ferguson, and it did in a way. He didn't show up on the night, and obviously his arm did become quite heavily incapable of being used because of that horrific armbar, which he should have just tapped to. But that just shows the toughness and the grit that Tony Ferguson brings into the octagon every single time he steps in. He showed it against Justin Gaethje. He didn't go away, didn't get knocked out. He was still on his feet when that fight ended, albeit it should have probably or could have been ended a little sooner than that. But Charles Oliveira, man, he's an absolute killer, isn't he? We look at Tony Ferguson off that 12-fight win streak. He's on a 2-fight loss now, and I think Charles Oliveira is on eight now at least, and he's on that road to being a title contender. Well, he's on that road to being a title contender, but he's very much maybe put himself in line to be next. Obviously, you'd imagine McGregor and Poirier, whoever wins that, is probably next in line, especially if McGregor wins that, because it's a big money fight and a title fight for the UFC. We're going to need to bring back some of the revenue they lost this year with no gates. But he's legit, isn't he? I know. I was saying that, I thought Tony Ferguson might bounce back last night, but I was also worried about where he is at the moment. He doesn't look himself. Now, whether he is in decline because he's 36 years of age, maybe come back too soon after that Gaethje fight is not fully recovered. Maybe there's a bit of jitters in there because they know what happened against Gaethje. But I don't think Tony Ferguson's that sort of person to get octagon jitters. But again, subconsciously, he didn't seem like he wanted to be in there. And I think Charles Oliveira also put mercy on him. There's a couple of times where you're thinking he can get the armbar in again. You can get, a finish in here. But I don't know if I think he showed maybe Ferguson a little bit of mercy. And obviously tested himself over 3 rounds against a former interim champion. But for me, yeah, Oliveira, if you're booking the next fight, I think you're probably getting him Justin Gaethje. I think that's probably the fight to make, or you're getting the winner of Conor and Dustin, but it depends on when they return. If, either one of them finishes the fight within a minute or two, you're booking that Charles Oliveira fight immediately for March, April. But, Justin Gaethje, and I think if you're Tony Ferguson, you booked the Michael Chandler fight, those two had a back and forth. It was looking like it was going to be on the November card, or even the October card when we was meant to have Poirier, Tony Ferguson. But it didn't come to fruition. Obviously, Chandler was the backup fighter to Khabib and Gaethje. And those two have gone back and forth. I think that's a fight to make, just because, one, it'd be interesting to see where Chandler is, and it could be, with all due respect, a way for Ferguson to get back into a win column. It'd be a good test to see where both of them are at. But again, Tony Ferguson is still a stud, still a killer, but 36 years of age. He's lost, I think, 8 rounds now. I think he's lost 8 rounds in a row now, Tony Ferguson. So you're looking at that and going, 2020 has not been his easiest year. To think he was going to be fighting for the undisputed title this year, of course, against Khabib Nurmagomedov at the start of the year. Everything was picked up for that, and then obviously the pandemic hit, and he challenged his interim title, cut weight twice inside 3-4 weeks. It's been a poor year for Tony Ferguson, and I do feel for him. It felt sorry last night, a bit like Anthony Smith against Glover Teixeira. It was a sad part of that fight, but I do think, hopefully, we see Charles Oliveira push up the rankings. The rankings aren't out yet until tomorrow at least. So book him against Gaethje. Let's have a fun one there, because both of them know how to bring violence, and both of them had a convincing win over Tony Ferguson. So let's see who comes out on top of that one, and then whoever wins that gets probably McGregor and Poirier for the title. Should Khabib relinquish the title and vacate it and remain retired, because of course if he comes back, Khabib Oliveira, that's a fight to make as well. That's gonna be a cracking fight. It's a fresh matchup for Khabib too, which I think, he doesn't want to come back for a rematch because he smashed the guys previously. It's not like they've had a close decision bouts, but obviously McGregor's a money fight. Dustin Poirier is almost a respect fight, a loyalty fight, if it would be a rematch. And obviously Gaethje, there's a lot of respect between Gaethje and Khabib, but if he wants to come back for 30, I think he needs a fresh matchup. Whether it's GSP, it would have been a Tony Ferguson, but that's probably out of the picture for good now. And maybe Charles Oliveira can get that return from Khabib and test that 30-0 streak perhaps. But again, I'd like to see Khabib remain retired, 29-0. I think he'd come back attempting 30 a little bit too much to keep that perfect record, especially with who's in the lightweight division, of course. But yes, we'll have a quick look at the statistics. Of course, 26 strikes landed there by Tony Ferguson, 19 of them significant out of 42. And you just look at the output that, Charles Oliveira put on Tony Ferguson, 86 out of 112 strikes landed, 41 of them significant out of 63, and he landed all 3 takedowns on the night. One in each round as well. He was so dominant on the ground. I just don't think Tony Ferguson wanted to be there on Saturday night. And that's a problem. He's looking a bit like Woodley, and we look at, Junior Dos Santos and Jacare probably going to get cut off of their losses on Saturday night. I don't think Daniel Tolokan's there yet, but if he goes on a streak where he loses 2 more perhaps, and he's fighting not for the sake of, whether it's financial gain, whether it's, just the sake of turning up on the night, I'd like to see him take a couple of months off. But again, he's 36 years of age. Father Time's catching up with him, and he probably doesn't have time to take a year out and recover properly. So we'll probably see him again, maybe against, Paul Felder, maybe Rafael Dos Anjos, someone like that. He's already faced Rafael Dos Anjos, I believe, anyway. But you're looking at Paul Felder's, Dan Hooker's need to fight, But I'd like to see him against Michael Chandler. Let's give Michael Chandler his debut against Tony Ferguson, potentially in the 5-round main event. Perhaps that would work very nicely in February, I think, or at least a 3-round co-main, whether it's on 257 or 258. Yes, we moved on, of course, to, again, Brazil had a good night, didn't they? Mackenzie Dern beat Werner Jandiroba, of course. And you know what? She impressed me. I know a lot of people questioned her strike and said it wasn't great, but from where it started at the start of the year and to where it is now, that fight against Amanda Ribas, she lost that very convincingly on the feet. Amanda Ribas pieced her up and won that by decision. But, on the preview, I asked, show us your strike and how has it evolved? Because it did look good in the last fight as well. And she looked even better. It's come, and she went the full 15 minutes. She faced some adversity in that second round with a potential broken nose from a good knee from Jandiroba. And both of those, we was expecting a grappling match, a fight that was going to start on the mat almost. And see who comes out with a submission win. But both of these stood up for the 15 minutes and wanted to showcase their striking. And you do get that sometimes when today is the anniversary of UFC 245, and we saw two wrestling studs in Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington go at it toe to toe for 25 minutes, and it was a very similar occasion, maybe not the skill level, but you're expecting grapplers and jiu-jitsu mastery from Mackenzie Dern and Jan Derova, but you didn't get that. You got pretty much a kickboxing match with a little bit of grappling in there, but it was like 75-25 striking for the fight. But yeah, Mackenzie Dern certainly impressed me with what she showcased, and I think the team up with Jason Perillo has done a lot of good. She's kept on weight. She's obviously become a mother in the past year and 2 months, year and 3 months, and I think that's done a lot of good too. She's settled down. I know there was reports prior to her last fight about her previous coach and her now husband not seeing eye to eye and having problems there, which you don't want to see that in your life, and obviously it brings a lot of stress, and maybe that was causing some of the weight misses, extra stress and whatnot, not being able to focus on what she has to do. But she focused very well last night, and she came away with a hard-earned win. And I was impressed. 101 strikes out of 195 landed, 82 of them significant. None out of 5 takedowns were, which you don't see very often. She's usually very good for her takedowns, but again, I was looking more at her striking on Saturday night. 80 strikes landed there from Jan Derova, 63 significant. She did get the one takedown out of the 2. But, she's on that. She's 11th in the rankings at the moment. She's going into the top 10 probably tomorrow after that win. And you're looking at, I'd like to see her up against Michelle Waterson perhaps. Obviously, Michelle Waterson was supposed to fight Amanda Ribas. That fight has fallen through. And you've now got Ribas facing Marina Rodriguez. So that does mean Michelle Waterson's open. Do you give her Tisha Torres, who had a fantastic win as well on the night, against Sam Hughes? That would be fun to see. Although I think Tisha Torres wants a top 10, but if Mackenzie Dern sneaks into that top 10, she's well within that right. And obviously 8 and 9 are fighting. Obviously Angela Hill. Maybe do Mackenzie Dern, Angela Hill. That would be a fun one to watch too. Someone who's very good on the strike and very pacey on the strike, and Mackenzie Dern. Obviously, I want to see how she evolves with Jason Perillo within the next year. I think she could be one to watch next year. Maybe not as a immediate title contender, but maybe going into 2022, she's in that top 5, top 6. Claudia Gadelha is looking for a fight. Nina Ansaroff is going to probably return in next year as well. So yeah, there's a lot of fights out there for Mackenzie Dern, and Verna Jandarova also didn't lose any stock last night. It wasn't a poor loss or a convincing loss. She just didn't edge it out on the scorecards, and Mackenzie Dern, powered through with the win. Again, give her someone like Felice Harrig, and she'll be fine. Although she just beat Felice Harrig, let's not give her that one again. Maybe give her, it's a tough one. It's hard to go up and give her someone higher up in the rankings. But definitely, she didn't lose no stock last night either. Someone, I got to say, Kevin Holland versus Jacare Souza. Kevin Holland is a bad man, isn't he? Obviously, he's had a fantastic 2020, gone 5-0. And last night, he knocked out Jacare and probably knocked him out of the UFC with all due respect and credit to Jacare because he's a legend. But, boy, he put on some performance and he's making a name for himself. Obviously, he fought once in May, and then since then, he's gone on an absolute tear from August, September, October, I believe, and then December he fought as well. Well, obviously December because he fought on Saturday. But he's a scary man when he steps inside that octagon. Obviously, he beat Jacqueline Buckley. He knocked out Jacare. We know how good he is. Well, he's got a knockout win over Chris Weidman, and obviously Kevin Holland's probably going to find himself in the middleweight rankings. Well, he's 15th at the moment, but he's probably going to move up a couple of spots. And you're looking at Edmund Shabazian, Chris Weidman. He's got Uriah Hall. You've got Mario Akhmedov in there. There's some big fights in there for 2021 for him. Again, you see, Marvin Vettori beat Jack Hermansson. That could have been Kevin Holland, I'm pretty sure. He's not disappointed because he got to fight anyway. But, that could have been him sitting pretty up in the 5th spot. But if you give him, I'd give him Edmund Shabazian. Let's see how the kid does against Kevin Holland. And, both of them bring in. Kevin Holland, again, he hits hard. Now, John Anik said on the broadcast he wants to take a couple of months off so he can build up some size because he's coming in almost underweight for 185. But, let's see, if he puts some muscle on it, let's see how much harder he can hit because he's got some heavy knockouts on his record. And the way he got Jacare last night, almost sitting on his knees, he swung up while they were both down, grappling, obviously. And Kevin Holland's got a better Jacare in the grappling department last night. Knocked him out. And there were some brutal punches that that finished Jacare, and Jacare was pretty pissed off. I don't know why. Obviously, probably frustrated with the loss and the method of the loss as well. But yes, Kevin Holland, certainly second favourite fighter of the year, and maybe the breakout star this year. I know he's had a couple of fights in 2019, but the fact that he's had such a good 2020, maybe I think Chimaev probably gets the breakout star of the year because of the waves he made in the UFC. But I think Kevin Holland could be also in with a shout. Obviously, he landed 21 strikes compared to Jacare's 2, 15 and 18 significant strikes, and he didn't waste no time at all, adding himself 50k in the process. And obviously, the final fight on the card was Cyril Garner versus Junior Dos Santos. Cyril Garner picking up a fantastic win again, of course. Again, he's a scary guy anyway, and he's beaten up a former champion. And again, what was quite a convincing fashion. He had a good second round, or good first round, should I say, and a good second round because he finished fighting that one. But the first round, he caught Junior Dos Santos just before the bell, and obviously Junior Dos Santos weathered the storm and came back out for the second. And it was a barrage of strikes that Junior Dos Santos, this Junior Dos Santos at least, just couldn't handle. Maybe the Junior Dos Santos of 2011, 2012 would have taken those shots and eaten them. But Cyril Garner, obviously France, I mentioned Cage Warriors in a little bit, had a very good 2020 with the legalization of MMA, the first event over there with Bellator MMA, of course. And Morgan Charriere became featherweight champion, and Cyril Garner is obviously doing his thing in the UFC. And we've probably seen him, he's 7-0 now, beating a former champion. He's going to be quite convincingly in that top 7. Do you book him up against Volkov at the Rothering, who's coming off a very good win, of course? It's tough to predict. But yeah, Cyril Garner is definitely one to watch in 2021 for a potential, building up against Rosenstruck maybe at the back end of the year if he gets a solid win in between that and then. Maybe you do him versus Ngannou if things come to it at the end of 2021 in France. That would sell out crazy numbers. But yes, Cyril Garner. However, look at the statistics, of course, 61 strikes to 82, 11 for Dos Santos, 10 of them significant as well. 59 significant for Cyril Garner, and 2 out of 3 takedowns. So yes, he had a fantastic night, as did the likes of Tisha Torres, of course. Renato Moicano came back to winning ways, and Rafael Fizayev also won on the night pretty convincingly as well, although there was some talks about the stoppages. One kid we've got to mention as well is Chase Hooper. Got beat up pretty badly for 3 rounds of that fight and came away with a heel hook victory win with some pretty nice Imanari rolls, and he looked fantastic with the win. Once he didn't look so fantastic on the stand-up, but again, the kid's got talent. The kid is phenomenal on the ground. It's just whether he can build up that strike, and maybe he needs to go up to Jason Perillo perhaps and do what Mackenzie's doing, because you can see the same trajectory. If he rings that striker, then he's a dangerous animal, because not many are going to be able to take him on the feet. Now moving on to Cage Warriors 119, of course, we had the trilogy over the weekend down in York Hall, unfortunately, still behind closed doors. For the next one's going to have 1,000 fans apparently, but in March, right on St. Patrick's Day weekend. And obviously, we saw 2 titles on the line, 2 vacant titles on the line. So we had 4 men going at becoming the next champion in the featherweight, and obviously in the lightweight division in the featherweights. So Morgan Charriere beat Perry Goodwin via KO in the 3rd round. It was a very good fight, both back and forth. But the Frenchman, the last pirate, came in and got the last call of the night of the trilogy series, and walked away with that title wrapped around his waist. And it seems he says one more fight before the UFC on his timeline. So whether that's him defending that featherweight title, or maybe moving up to the lightweight champion. Now, Aji Sadari made his Cage Warriors debut over the weekend against Jack Grant, and he looked phenomenal after 5 rounds. He got the decision win in his favour. It was a split. He got 2 rounds to 1, or 2 judges' scorecards to 1, should I say. 48, 47, 49, 46, and then 47, 48 to Jack Grant. And you saw how devastated Grant was to lose that split decision. But again, Aji Sadari making his debut in Cage Warriors and walking away with a lightweight title wrapped around his waist. On the night, of course, the fight of the night, probably, I would have said between both of them, but Deiveson, Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno would be pretty offended, I think, if I said that. But, Paul Hughes, it was the invasion of the Irish, as Graham Boylan put it, and he faced Jordan Vucenic, and those two had an absolute battle for the ages. Neither of them wanted to back down. Again, this one went to split decision, well, 29-28. 2 of those scorecards to Jordan Vucenic and Paul Hughes on the receiving end of one himself, and it was a very, very close fight to score. I'm still not quite sure. I'd probably have to watch it again. I'm probably going to watch Cage Warriors 119 again, because it was just a fantastic night. The pacing of Cage Warriors is phenomenal too. And obviously Ian Gary in the welterweight division, the welterweight title is vacant at Cage Warriors, and he defeated Lawrence Tracy in a beautiful TKO inside round 1, and he's called for that title, that vacant title. And with it being St. Patrick's Day weekend, I wouldn't be surprised to see him fighting for that vacant belt. It's just whether who he's standing in the octagon against, on March probably 22nd, I'd imagine, on that final night, because you can see probably him headlining and being the headliner. Obviously, you've got Jack Cartwright probably fighting for his bantamweight title. You've got maybe Morgan Charriere defending his title. Maybe Eddie's still going to be defending his title. And obviously, Jake Hadley will be defending his title, most likely on that card. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see who's booked on there. Paddy Pimblett, I think, is going to be returning on that card. That's always going to be a fun one. There's your match, Paddy Pimblett versus Morgan Charriere, maybe, or Aji Sadari. I think he's in the lightweight division, isn't he? So yes, Paddy Pimblett, Aji Sadari. That's probably the fight to make. That sells out in London. There's only 1,000 people going to York Hall, but he's probably going to bring half of Liverpool with him for that one. So yes, Ian Gary, I was highly impressed with him. You can see why the kid's undefeated, and it's a shame that Paul Hughes lost his undefeated record. But I'm sure he's going to learn, an amazing amount from it. And obviously, he's still very young in the game. 4-1, 6-1. But it's impressive what he did. It's just unfortunately he wasn't on the right side of the scorecard on the night. And obviously, from Northern Ireland, Jack McColgan obviously got that KO win as well. Obviously, he fought Mason Jones for his title back in March and the very Cage Warriors 113. And again, he's put himself right back in the mix for the title challenge against Kieran Lister, of course. Maybe, I don't know how they're going to work it out, but maybe Joe McColgan, maybe against Paddy Pimblett, and the winner gets a title challenge in terms of if it's Aji Sadari on the night, whether if he goes to UFC, maybe, but if he's on that card, at least it sets up a nice little title defense, maybe. Yes, Cage Warriors was phenomenal at the weekend, and I mentioned this before. Aside from Fight Island, Cage Warriors the trilogy has been the second best thing to come out of MMA this year. Obviously, we've had Karate Combat also come out this year, and that's been fantastic as well. But we've got one card left this week. Obviously, we've got Stephen Thompson versus Jeff Neal, rounding out the year on a fantastic 15-fight card, which is absolutely stacked. Jose Aldo's on there, Marlon Moraes, Rob Font. Huge names on that card. And it's going to be a bomb. I think Robbie Lawler's on there as well, with Pettis is on there at least. But yeah, it's going to be a phenomenal fight card. And it's a good way to bow out 2020. So we're back in 2021 in January with Holloway Cater, and then obviously the big one between Dustin Poirier and McGregor straight into the pay-per-view, which has got fans in it in Abu Dhabi. But it's been a fantastic week of fights. And I think the festival is over. And I think that's a good place to wrap up there, guys. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to hit that follow button if you're on Facebook, of course. And we'll see you guys on the next video.